Katie Sutton of PTA Plus, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. So this is a crossover episode, but before we start, I wanted to make sure people understand who you are and what PTA Plus is and why you did it outside of me forcing you to do it. That's not why you did it, but I did do a little bit of arm twisting, but hopefully that's not why you did it and continue to do it.
No, and I mean, you're right. You encouraged me and kind of have been a huge mentor over the last couple of years. We're coming up on 2 years. So that's pretty cool. What really happened was you and I were talking about this and what it would look like. And I kept coming back to there's so many PTAs that have other things that they do. And I mean, you could say this is true for PTs and any profession as well. But a lot of the PTAs that I work with on a regular basis, colleagues, friends, they also do something else. So they might be involved in something else, or they might hold different certifications or have a side gig or whatever. And so when we were tossing around names and everything, that's where PTA Plus came about, because I kept thinking like, well, they're a PTA Plus, they do this and plus they do that. And so really it's just a great way to highlight all of the things that make us more than just a PTA. Which is a term that I wish would go away and people would stop saying. So
for some reason, PTAs, and maybe I'm just noticing it now. Maybe it's like the red Jeep theory. When you notice something, you notice something. But yeah, what I found is you are very, very prone to throwing the word "just" in front of PTA, and I don't understand that. So I'm going to look deeply into the camera. Stop doing that.
I'm trying to eliminate that. I feel like I'm doing my part. I'm doing what I can to eliminate it.
Yeah. All right. So in this crossover episode, and the goal is we'll do this on a regular basis, and it'll draw more attention to not only PTAs, but to all the PTAs who are doing plus this, plus that. But other than that, we can't just do that. I want to tell and ask good questions and share things. And you brought this for our first episode, and I'll put it on the screen so we can go through it. So this is from James Clear, and he wrote Atomic Habits, and he's got a really, really good newsletter. I don't get anything if you sign up for his newsletter, but it is very, very clear, as his name would allow. But he's a good thinker. He takes apart ideas and flips them over and reverses them and tries to figure out what you're going to take out of it. So instead of just putting like a really nice quote on the screen or on LinkedIn or Twitter, he dives a little bit deeper. And so let's go through this framework that you brought to the table. I'll read the 4 qualities out loud and we'll discuss it. So the framework is the 4 qualities of a great career. 1, 2, 3, 4. I enjoy it. I'm good at it. I make good money, and I'm around fascinating people. So that is his order. There's a specific reason there's an order of the 4 qualities of a great career, but he wants you to answer these things in reverse order, which are where are the fascinating people? In what ways can I make money with them? Which ones am I good at? And which ones do I enjoy? So you brought this to me and said, this is what would be our discussion. Talk about why. Like what about that whole paradigm drew, what made you like it and look into it and get excited by it?
Yeah. So for me, this connected very well to PTA Plus, because I just got done telling you about how I found it very interesting that a lot of the PTA colleagues I have are doing all of these other things as well. So I like the reverse order, because I think that this is something that we tend to forget. We have all these skills. We learn this in PT and PTA school, how to take care of patients and how to drive healthcare and how to get people back to function, whatever, fill in the blanks. But we also forget that those are very translatable. And so what I like about this is that I have utilized this before in the past. So those of you who know me, I worked for a DPT program before my current role. And I think that the reason why I was able to get into that DPT program is because I was asking these kind of questions before I even knew it was a thing. So I was looking around my area and where I live, and I was like, well, who's fascinating, or somebody that I would like to work with? Who's a college or university or a healthcare system that I find fascinating, that intrigues me, that I would like to work with? And what kind of skills do I bring to the table? Like, what am I good at? Why am I, Katie Sutton, physical therapist assistant, able to and qualified to work with this group of people? What makes it so that I can connect well with them? can I make money doing it? And the answer was yes. And do I enjoy it? So like, this is something that I've used before. I just didn't know it was a thing. But I think that PTAs are probably doing this more often than what we know. And that's where, you know, we have our PTAs that also do nutrition and health coaching and personal training and director of rehab, and you fill in the blank with whatever you want to fill in the blank with, is because people are doing this. Maybe they don't know it, but I think it's a good framework. Like, why don't we talk about this more often for somebody who might feel like they're stuck?
Yeah. So I've used this framework before, even so similarly, like didn't know about it, but was using it. But it is nice when people put words to it. Mm-hmm. It's prettier. And all of a sudden it's not this sort of this idea. Like sometimes I get a concept and it sort of feels like a sneeze. It's like this thing, I've got it, there it is, but then it's gone and now it's back again. And oh my gosh. And then, finally you sneeze and it explodes. So I think this makes something tangible that maybe feels intangible first. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I'll go through it in the order of the questions he told you should ask. So we're not going through it with the 4 qualities: enjoy it, good at it, make money, and I'm around fascinating people. But before I do, I've done full episodes on this before, because once you sent this, it made me think of this image. If you're watching the video, which is the Ikigai, which is the Japanese concept, which means a reason for being. And you've probably seen this if you're listening. Even if you're just listening to podcasts, I can easily describe this image to you. It's a Venn diagram with 4 circles perfectly aligning and crossing in the middle. It looks like a lotus, and of course, Japanese, very big in the lotus. And the 4 circles in Ikigai are what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. So when I look at the Ikigai and then I lay over, I enjoy it, I'm good at it, I make money, I can make good money, I'm around fascinating people. The only difference there is that around fascinating people. So which one is it leaving out? Love, good, need. So it's the world need. It's like needing it. But like, if you can make good money at it, the chances are someone needs it, right? Unless you can make good money at being a bank robber. Like, I enjoy being a bank robber. I'm good at it. I'm around fascinating people. So you can apply that. Yeah, we're not encouraging being a bank robber. But if you know how to rob a bank, maybe you give me a call. So let's go into the 4 different questions, right? And we'll go into the order that James Clear decides to ask you to answer them, which is, where are the fascinating people? Mm-hmm. So the questions I would ask if I was going to be a good, mentor or advisor, I'd say, what makes someone fascinating to you? And this doesn't sound very paradigm jumping, but it is, because we assume that what I think is interesting, everybody thinks is interesting. So we must all be the same. But I remember going into radio broadcasting young and thinking, well, of course, everybody in the world would think this is the coolest job. It's going to be the hardest job in the world to get. And even amongst my friend group, them being like, you would have to, there's no chance in hell I ever want to go talk into a microphone every day. And in my mind, I'm like, I would die. I would give up a finger to go talking to a microphone every day. If you would pay, I would pay you to do that. Never mind, would you pay me to do that? So I'm showing this thing with, like, what does make someone or something fascinating in this context? Because what you think is fascinating, the next 10 people might think is absolutely boring or something they would never want to do. So how should PTs and PTAs, or really anybody, I think we can just take that label right off it. This applies to everybody. Yeah, how should people think about their professional circle, teams, mentors? Because what you find fascinating might not be for anybody else. And that's a really good step on step 1, narrowing it down. When I was doing a job search years ago, I stopped. I might have had a half a bottle of wine and I had a dry erase board, because that's what I do. And instead of writing down where I wanted to work or what I wanted to do, I switched it to this question, and the list got a lot smaller. Like, it's almost infinite. What do you want to do? That's what everybody says. What do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? And I was like, I don't know. I thought I was a grown up. And then when I changed it to who do I know that I might want to be around, that list got smaller and things got more clear. So I do like how he starts with that question. So what do you think about that first question? Like, really defining where are the fascinating people? Yeah,
well, and I think that this is the value of networking, right? This is the value of, for me, and again, not everybody's going to like this, but it wasn't until I started to attend conferences like Combined Sections meeting or my state conferences in Ohio. That's where I started to find the fascinating people that I wanted to be around. And truly, that's when my career started to change and grow and mold into what it is right now. Because I remember the first time I went to CSM and I walked into the exhibit hall and my mind was just blown. I'm like, how did I not know that all of these people got together and did all of these things? And when you walk through the exhibit hall, and I'm sure you can say this about any conference, again, you can plug in any career that we're talking about here, but this is where those innovative minds are coming together. And you walk through the exhibit hall and there's truly something for everyone. Whatever the setting that you want to work in, whatever specialty you want to kind of get into, there's something there. And that's where those innovative minds are. You start to talk to people, you start to figure out what they're doing, and you're looking at all of these different ways that you can do what you do and have fun at it and enjoy it and like the people you're around and make money and all of that good stuff. So for me, that's where it really started, was plugging into a network and figuring out what other people were doing. Because when I was just working in the clinic, and again, there's nothing wrong with working in a clinic, but I think I had blinders on to what else was out there. I was just kind of like focused on, what was happening in that day to day. I wasn't really thinking outside of those four walls.
Having gone through a job search in the last, 18 months, you start falling into a pattern of, well, I'm just going to keep searching for this thing or these things that are already there. Right. So if I'm a physical therapist, I'm a physical therapy jobs. I do some things a little bit outside the box. So I'm going to look for those things. And I had a friend of ours, Sky Donovan, say to me, why do you keep looking for the same thing over and over again? You've done that and you don't like that. And I'm like, but that's all there is. And she's like, you're smart enough to know that there isn't. But when you can't see what you're looking for, all you see is what's there. And it's like, that's the red Jeep theory, right? So if I just said to you, well, the only thing out there is red Jeeps, next thing you know, you're going to notice when those red Jeeps are. But it's hard to spot the thing that isn't there. Like, that's not how our eyes work. Our eyes work on what is there. So this is change, like simply changing the question, where do you think the fascinating people are? That answer is going to be different for all of us. And then once you answer it, the goal is, so go there. If all the fascinating people are at the exhibit hall at CSM, go there. But to the next 10 people, like I'm friends with people who've gone to CSM. They're like, dude, I get why you like it. That ain't my bag. And that person isn't wrong. And I'm not wrong. And that's a superpower, because if we all thought the same things were fascinating, those jobs would be gone. Those connections would be exhausted. So the cool part is our variability, like the fact that we actually like different things, and the fascinating things are in fact different. All right, going to the next question. And this is something I think that people in healthcare who have like blue personalities hate to answer, because it makes them feel like they're just doing things for the money, or is this capitalist? Now, keep in mind, you might not be a millionaire doing something, but this is where Ikigai comes in, and they say, if you can't get paid for it, this is where the top of the circle, it says delight and fulfillment, but no wealth. This could be something could be a really great hobby, but we're talking about a career. So you have to be able to get paid for it. Maybe not $1 billion, but you have to be able to support yourself, because if you're just going to do it on the side, maybe you're independently wealthy and then everything's a hobby in life. I am not independently wealthy, so not everything is a hobby, but you have to be able to support yourself. So I like the fact that he asked this question, and it is second and not last. So how does income factor into fulfillment? There are studies out there that I'm sure someone smarter than me can find, but I've read that over a certain amount of money, you don't get more fulfillment. Gary Vee is famous, and that dude's like worth $1 billion plus. He's like, I know people who are just disgustingly rich and miserable. So those two things are not in lockstep. One does not mean the other. But when you saw this as a second question, what came to your mind first? As someone who I will identify as more of a bleeding heart than me. So did the fact that he brought money into this so early in the conversation bother you, or what did it make you feel?
Well, that's obviously an issue for me, because I say yes to probably too many things that maybe don't necessarily have any kind of return on investment for my time, right? But I think that there's obviously there's a lot of things that we say yes to, that we do. We're not going to get a financial return on investment, right? But we might get something else out of that in return. We're going to learn something. We're going to change our ways of thinking or whatnot. But in what ways can I make money with them? Well, for me, that would be an important question to ask, because of course I need to support myself and whatnot. But I think that if you find those fascinating people and you can make money with them, the next question is going to be for me is it enough to sustain me so that I can do this thing that I enjoy and at least make a living out of it?
Yeah.
Right.
If you can't make money on it, which again, you and I both do things that make us $0. And one of my most viral or interacted with pieces of social media, I should try to go find it, was if you're good at something, and I purposely tried to poke the bear. And I said, if you're good at something, never do it for free. Right. That was someone famous, advice, whatever it was. And I think I also poked because people were like, what, you shouldn't volunteer? You shouldn't, you're active in like the House of Delegates within your state. You shouldn't give your time away freely. And that's why I wanted people to see, just because you don't get something monetarily out of it doesn't mean you're doing it for free. Like when you volunteer, if you get a sense of fulfillment, you are being paid in fulfillment. Now, as long as you have something that can pay your bills and put food on the table and pay the electric bill, you can give away that time. So that was one of the first things that you said was, we do a lot of things that we aren't getting paid for our time, but if you're getting something out of it, then you are being paid for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you have to be able to say no to the things if you can do the math down the line that you're like, I could do this. I'm good at it. I know other people value it. But dude, a week into this project, if I say yes, I'm going to hate even opening my laptop to do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It costs you too much.
And I think that we've all found ourselves in that position before, right? And at first, when I started to kind of break into some of the volunteerism and people realized I had an interest and found my skill set or whatever, there were things that I said yes to that maybe I probably shouldn't have. And then you find yourself giving that time, not necessarily enjoying it, feeling like you're kind of stuck and that you have to do it and you have to finish it. And then you're like, am I really giving good quality work at that point? So you do kind of have to evaluate that stuff. And I think that for me, I have developed my my ideas of things that I like enough. I feel like I'm close enough to that now. I know myself well enough. I know my skills. I know what I bring to the table, that I'm now confident in saying, thank you for the offer, but no to that particular thing. But probably 5 or 10 years ago, I would have just said yes because
we get told that, right? Say yes, figure it out later. Don't say no to any opportunity. Every, opportunity is a door that might lead somewhere. And that's true. But this second question from James Clear, remember, is how can I make money with it? Remember that your finite resource, while money might be finite as well, time. You can only divide yourself so many different ways. So if you're saying yes, I won't say who it was or what organization, but it's within physical therapy. I was talking to someone, they were asking me to do something. And instead of just saying yes, I was like, can we jump on a call? I want to understand this more. Like, what are you expecting of me to do? Like, it was a very vague ask. Like, I don't think on purpose. I don't think she meant it that way. But when we got on the call, I ultimately said, yeah, I can do this. Whatever you're asking for is enough for me to be able to do and then be done with it. The funny part was when we started diving in, she's a volunteer for an organization's event, an annual event every year. So it's not any events you and I are doing. Just don't be sitting there doing the math trying to figure it out. But when I asked how the event was going and what it looked like, and like, is it worth my time to, this was asking me to leave my house and go somewhere for more than a day. So I needed to be a little bit guarded with my time and ask a bunch of those questions. And ultimately I found out she was so frustrated with the organization and the event because they haven't given her the tools, the training, the time, the people, the product, and the process to make it a great event. So I said, I will do this for you this year, knowing that she and I sort of both knew that this event was going to be this year, but it was okay. It was a small enough ask for me to do it. Mm-hmm. Then she asked me, would you take over my job for next year? And I said, maybe, if you do it with me, because I already liked this woman, like the vibe was cool. But I said, we're going to go to your bosses, the people in charge, and we're going to ask for, what is the goal of this? Do you think we're achieving those goals over the last 5 years? Because this event, we can look very quickly and go, this event is meh. Should this event even exist? And if it's gonna exist over the next 3 to 5 years, are we going to do something different and expect a different? Are we going to do something the same and expect a different result, or are we actually going to do something different? Everybody wants to grow and make things better. Very few people want to do the things required for change.
Yes.
And I've worked with organizations where we walked out of a meeting going, we shouldn't be doing this anymore. And I'm like, right, but look what you just bought yourself, time and bandwidth to double down with things that are working or you do like. So this applies for people and organizations is what I wanted to add into that. So
yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
All right. The third question in James Clear's paradigm, what am I good at? And I think this goes back to something you were talking about earlier, which is clinicians are just like, well, I'm good at evaluation and treating and interventions. And I push back and you push back and go, but where is that transferable? That is not listen, I've been outside of the clinical environment. This is my second career. It's so stunningly obvious to me that I'm like looking at people going, you can't see where this is a superpower. Your skills are 1000% transferable without having to take another class or degree or certification right now. I need you to have a little confidence in yourself. So how do you suggest clinicians can identify strengths beyond those clinical skills or those clinical skills in non-familiar places?
Well, I mean, you do have to have a couple strikeouts, right? Before you.
What is a strikeout?
Where you try something and it doesn't work,
Yeah,
like,
of course. That's life.
Yeah, you're going to have those kind of things as well. And of course, for me, there were a few of those things that I tried and I was like, yeah, I wasn't very good at that. I might have done a good job, but I wasn't all that skilled at it. But going back to the clinicians, and I think that this is where it's applicable to what you and I do a lot. Neither one of us work in a clinic anymore. But I always hear PTs and PTAs who go into education and say, well, we were never taught to be educators. We were taught to be clinicians. And that's true to some extent. But if you think about all of the things that you do with your patient on a regular basis, you teach them every day, So yeah, we do kind of have some of that embedded into what we do. We just don't think of it as translating to the classroom. And of course, there's all these other like intricate details and things that go into it and big words that
multi-syllable words. The funny part is it's moving information from one person to another. And well, I'm sure you're in education. There's a lot of words like paradigms and like things like that, things that Jimmy doesn't understand. But I've been on the receiving end of teaching. Oh, yeah. I can tell you what lights me up, but also what lights me up wouldn't light up my former PT school roommate David. Like he didn't like the way that so the funny part is, as an educator, I'm guessing you're constantly evolving the way you're teaching based on feedback, verbal, nonverbal, paraverbal. In the moment, you're doing that with patients. You're doing that with people that you interact with on a daily basis. I'm explaining something very clear to this person and they're not getting it, which means it's actually not very clear to them. So I'm reading their face or they're saying, they're straight up saying, I don't get it. Hang on, let me reevaluate. Let me explain it a different way. That is a skill. Yes. Which brings me to this one lesson that I want to impart, mostly because I am guilty of this as well. I'm the problem. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. So the idea there is what you're good at or you like doing, we typically undervalue. Because if something comes easy to us or if we're good at it because we put a bunch of time and effort and energy into getting good at it, now it feels simple. We assign a lower value. Maybe not all the time, but I am guilty of doing this. Conversely, we look at things that are hard for us and we put more of a value on that and might look at it like, I'm never going to be good at that, right? I'm never going to be able to. Well, actually, if you liked it and you put the time and the effort, the energy toward it, I bet you would get good at it. Now, some people are just going to get good at things faster and more efficiently, and some people don't, depending on the thing and the person. But don't devalue your skills simply because either you're around a lot of people who have them. Well, everybody here is good at that. It's not valuable. Look how plentiful it is. That small snapshot of the world, the people you're around, it's not the universe. And stop devaluing your own skills. I'm saying this for you listening, watching. I'm also saying it for me because I know I do this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am positive that I did it when you said, hey, you should start a podcast. And it was like, oh my gosh, Jimmy, I would never be good at a podcast. I could never do that, you know.
But you talk to people I watched you talk to people in real life. I'm using air quotes on podcasts. And I was like, so the thing you're doing right now, that's a podcast. Now there's a little bit of like fakeness to it, right? Because you have to, instead of just walking up to someone in a conversation and start talking, you have to say, let's meet at this time. We're going to push record. And when the microphone and the camera comes out, that is a weird situation. That's why I say the goal of the host is to make the guest, like, look at those words, host and guest. Like if I were coming to your house, you're the host. Your goal is to make it comfortable and let them get past that uncomfortableness so that they can show up. That's the trick. That's the only trick you need to learn to go from real life, non-scripted conversations to like predetermined. I want you to go deep into this to make sure that when we do it, lots of people can hear it. So I watched you converse and I was like, yeah, you're already good at this. I just need to get you over the fact that you might be a little weird when we see that number, the little red light come on and we're recording. That's the only difference. It's simple, not easy, but once you get past it, man, it's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Something you said about evolving. I just wanted to touch base on that real quick. This was several words ago. I know we've kind of went in a little bit of a different direction here, but you mentioned evolving. And I think that this is one of those things that, we were talking about going into academics and teaching from the clinic. And in academics and education, I have to constantly evolve. And you're right. I'm watching the students and their facial expressions and their body language. And if they're not getting it, and if I have a lot of blank faces, or are they tired? Do they need to get up, take a break, go to the restroom, get a drink, something like that? What's happening? But if I choose to not evolve, that's where I stop being good at it. When we look at that third bullet point, which one am I good at? So if I go into the classroom and I teach that same class every single semester, and I don't take the students' feedback that they give me on their surveys, or their verbal and nonverbal feedback that I'm seeing day to day, or the results and outcomes that I'm getting from their assessments, and I don't change, then I stop being good at that thing. So evolving equals change, which is sometimes hard. I don't love having to update my material every single semester, but
that's the job.
Yeah.
But
that applies to everything. You're going to do the same thing in the clinic.
Correct. Yeah. I say, when I work with larger organizations, they typically have a problem, and the larger organizations are trying to communicate to their members or their audience, the people they're trying to sell to or interact with, the people who are members. And what I like to explain to them is the goal of communication is not to have communicated. The goal of communication is to achieve understanding. So if you fire out one arrow, one message, you're done, right? You've communicated. Yeah. I'm done. Yeah. I said it, right? The goal is to make sure that they understand it. And one message in one way might not be enough. And the funny example I do that gets a lot of LOLs is I've never been a third grade teacher, but I would easily be the most productive and the best third grade teacher ever, because I've seen the third grade syllabus. Dude, I could teach that entire syllabus in 2 weeks. School year's 9 months. These kids would be out of here, right? Now, of course, I would do it at 150 miles an hour, but I don't have to make sure every kid understands it, right? Yes, that's actually the goal. The goal is not to just have communicated the syllabus and rip through it as fast as you can, like I know an adult could do to the third grade syllabus, because you have to make sure that they understand, and that room full of people is varied. Some are going to get some things faster than others. You're going to have to pivot your message. You're going to have to read and react, because the goal of teaching is not to have taught. It is to achieve understanding. And that is simple, but not easy. So understanding what game you're in, I think. What am I good at? And how do I figure that out? And then the funny part is, his last question on the list is, which do I enjoy? Which is always the first question people ask you when you're like, I'm thinking about doing a pivot, or I want to do something different, or I'm bored. People always go like, well, what do you like? What do you like? What do you like to do? Like this is on par with, I can't find my keys. Where's the last place you had them? Who doesn't want to punch someone? Yes. Thank you so much for that in-depth insight. I hadn't thought about where's the last place I had my keys. Let me go back to that. Oh, look at that. There they are. I don't know where that place is. Yeah. So that's the problem, is when people say, like, what do you enjoy? You don't know. So, but the cool part is he puts this question last, because the first three questions are going to get you real close. They're going to get you within pitching wedge distance, right? Instead of asking you, well, what do you like when you're 500 yards away from the green? Sorry, I played golf yesterday, so everything's golf analogies for me. But this one comes last, and I think the answers are in the first three. Fine. Mm-hmm. So write down 1, 2, and 3. Where are the fascinating people? How can I make money with them? Partnering them, working for them, creating something that would solve their biggest problem, right? And then which ones am I good at? I love this because finally, the first 3 are going to lead you to the answer, which is which ones do I actually enjoy?
Yeah.
So this is a math equation for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you saw which ones do I enjoy, what came to your mind?
Well, that I had traditionally always done that, and again, the same thing, like what is it that you like to do whenever someone says that they're looking for a new job or a new role or something like that? Well, what do you like? Well, again, yeah, it kind of goes back to that whole, I don't know what I like.
I
don't know what I want to do when I grow up.
I like to do as little as possible and get paid as much as possible for doing as little as possible.
10 to 2. Yeah, really that kind of thing. But I think that I lost my train of thought is what I think.
Well, what I was thinking is like, ask you, instead of like, what do I enjoy? People always like, well, what do you like to do? I like how his question is, what do you enjoy? Because again, enjoy is the same as fascinating, right? It's so subjective, but lean into the thing that you think is obvious to me. Because what I enjoy, again, when I told my friends from high school that all I wanted to do was talk into a microphone, they were like, I don't even want to talk in front of 5 people, never mind 55 people or 55,000 people. So the question I like to do, like, what do you enjoy? You can go deeper or ask what I call like ricochet questions. They're less direct and they're easier to sort of answer because you don't have to think. Like, what lights you up day to day? When was the last time you were like in flow, in just that, like doing whatever? And then it doesn't necessarily need to be that task. Like if you're like, Jimmy, I like whiteboarding and collaborating with people who are in different professions and industries. Okay, well, that might not be a job, but what I heard you say was collaboration or creating something from scratch. Or maybe I like to hear people's ideas and help them actually take it from idea and then do the really strict process thing. We need like a project manager. So like, instead of saying, well, what do you like to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I want to be a fireman. Like that's too hard to answer, but what has already lit you up? In what ways can we find those elements in a job? Right. So I like that. And then how do we rediscover enjoyment if we've lost it? If you're asking this question because you're in a job pivot or you want a promotion, you want to go parallel or vertical, you have to ask yourself like, well, how do we rediscover enjoyment if we lost it? I still like that, asking that question. Outside of work, what are the things that you gravitate to? You can spend your time however you want outside of work, but what are you doing there? Well, I like riding bikes or, whatever. That's not a job. Okay. So you like things that are methodical, right? If you're going to ride a bike every day and because you're going to enter a race. Oh, you like organizing and planning. Is that something that you would like to do in your job? Maybe. Is it something you have been doing in your current job? Well, no. Well, then maybe that's an element that you're missing. So I think this last question for me is like, break everything down almost like a periodic table. What are the elements? What are the oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen of the things? Because you can reorganize those things in lots of different ways using a chemistry analogy. So just because you have these skills and you put them together, H2O is water. If you reorganize those things or added more H or less O, could it be something else? Could you add some carbon in there? I'm saying these things like I actually remember chemistry and I don't. But the point is elements that you have as whatever you are, a clinician, an educator, you can add to other things. Maybe you really need to add another degree to something or a certification or read a book to add an element to something, but it doesn't need to all be there for you to get the job. You can be 89% of the way there and be the best candidate. That's true.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my thought came back. Sorry, not all cylinders are firing this morning, but it's exactly what you were describing. So, if you go through those first 3 questions and you've already kind of broke those down to some extent, when you're using your search engine to look for jobs or careers or whatever, so your Indeeds, your LinkedIn's, all of those kind of things, if you've answered some of those first questions, and you're knowing what I am good at, what kind of skills do I have, where's fascinating people, and you can kind of start to look in those industries, you're going to start looking for things that are outside of what you currently do. So instead of me constantly going to LinkedIn and typing in physical therapist assistant, well, because of what I do now and where I've went in my career, I'm not likely going to find anything under physical therapist assistant. But if I'm typing in some of the different management and leadership and other qualities and skills that I've developed over the years, I might be linking myself to other networks and other communities and other industries that I can go, oh, you know what? I think I would actually enjoy that, even though it doesn't have physical therapy in the title.
If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always got. And I understand because I've been guilty of this. If I just, well, I have a degree in physical therapy. So the first part of my search term on Google needs to be PT. Does it? Because you're there right now and you don't like that, maybe. So you need to take that part of the equation out.
Yes.
But break it down to the base elements.
Yes.
What is a physical therapist assistant good at? What are the skills and what are the things I like doing? So, all right, so let's wrap this up with tactical things.
Okay.
How could someone listening actually use this? So I would say go through this checklist and honestly assess and answer these. And again, where are the fascinating people? In what ways can I make money with them? Which ones am I good at? And then finally, which ones do I enjoy? And break those things down. Stop trying to answer what's the job title. That'll come later. Unless you know it, you can't search for it. I'm sorry, that's how Google works. You have to be able to give it good search queries, but maybe you don't know, and that's okay. This is going to help you break it down to what those base elements are. So I would say do this, and then I would say show it to 2 or 3 people who really, really know you. Because sometimes our blinders are on ourselves. So if I present an idea to someone I really know that really knows me, and they go, that seems like that doesn't seem, I see what you're doing there, but I'm able to look at it from a 30,000 foot view of you. So honestly ask them in that way. You don't have to say, here's this job description. What do you think of this? Ask what they think of your answers to those first 3 questions to see if you're on the right path. Again, where are the fascinating people? In what ways can I make money with them? Which ones am I good at? And then I think the ones that you enjoy is the sum of those first 3 questions. What advice would you give to a student if they were going through this paradigm, if you were doing Katie Mentor one-on-one time?
Yeah. Well, the first one, where are the fascinating people? And you and I were talking about this a little bit before we hopped on. And there's a book called The Proximity Principle, which I have not read, but I do want to read it. But I do understand a little bit about like what the whole theory is if there's something, an industry or someone that you want to emulate or learn from, you have to get in proximity to them, right? So if I want to break into a specific kind of career or industry, I need to get myself somewhat closer to that and get close to those people that I find fascinating to discover, is there something here that I can actually make money with? Am I good at it? And then once you've been around that specific group of people or industry, do I really like it at the end of the day? So the whole key is you got to get yourself somewhat closer to it, right? Yeah. Before you can even see if there's anything there.
Yeah. This is good recon. Like, this is just like, I don't know, like this is a test drive of a group of people who are doing a thing that you're like, well, do I even like being around these people? Right. I mean, I've got a really close friend from high school who's into stockbroking. I have no idea what he does. He loves it. He's like, you'd be great at this. And then I get around his friends, and his friends are nice people outside of work. They start talking about what they're doing in work. And I'm like, I have no desire whatsoever. But this is really lucrative. You'd be good at this. This is like, if you're good at personality and I can teach you the other. And I'm like, I got to be honest with you, bro. I love you. And I love that you have such a high opinion of me. But this doesn't sound like I would like any of this. So like, am I good at it? I don't know. He thinks I would be. So let's just say I would be good at being a stockbroker. Right. And can you make money being a stockbroker? Yes, you can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do I consider those people fascinating? The people are, but what they're the work versions of themselves? No, I didn't. Would I enjoy it? Also, no. So, but that's the point in life, right? Make the most money with the least amount of effort? No, I don't think it is. Because if I was miserable all day, man, that's a long ride.
It goes back to the Ikigagi, right?
Yeah, it goes right back to this, which is like, okay, what can you be paid for? What does the world need? What do you love? and what are you
love?
good at?
What's your passion? Mm-hmm.
All right. So maybe we'll have to read the proximity principle at some point and do a book club episode on that.
Yeah, we should try to do
Do you want to wrap up with parting shots? Like what's your take home moment from this? This is the thing that you brought from James Clear. What would you want to leave with the audience as we wrap up?
Well, I think if we can just kind of throw it out there that, I mean, PTA Plus is going to be ramping up. We got tons of episodes coming this summer. And I just really want to I want to push people to think outside the box. I want to push PTAs to think of other ways that they can bring things to the table. I mean, if you look at the profession, if you look at the association, I'm very involved in our professional association. So many more opportunities are coming to PTAs than there used to be. And I'm just really tired of the old mindset of, well, there's nothing there for me, or there's no growth opportunities or whatnot. And I'm here to kind of like bust that myth. So I want people to look at this type of thinking and get themselves in that close proximity to fascinating people. It can open doors. There are ways that you can get some kind of return on investment, whether it's money, whether it's education, whether it's leadership skills. There's opportunity there. What am I good at and what do I enjoy? Going through that list, this can go way beyond a career. This can go way beyond physical therapist assistant. But again, I'm just kind of like, I want to break that paradigm of, well, I'm just this, or I'm just that. And it's the day-to-day and the want, I just want people to think a little more creatively.
Yeah. I would say the questions that we presented that we stole from James Clear, so we get to sound as smart as him. Ask yourself those questions. Where are the fascinating people? In what ways can I make money with them? Which ones am I good at? And which ones do I enjoy? You could also ask yourself other questions that get down to the more base elements. When's the last time I felt really aligned in my work?
I like it.
What's a task I secretly enjoyed more than I should have, right? Maybe your job is like a process person, but like you were handed a creative task and you were like, gosh, this is awesome. How about a person who made work more fun this year? How about one skill I want to double down on this year? And this doesn't mean any of those projects or things or people is the person you need to go to, but then ask yourself, what about that task made me excited? What about that person did I feel lit up by and wanted to be around them more? The answers are in answering these hard questions, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry, but downloading a list ain't going to get it. Mm-hmm. You have to answer these questions and nobody can answer them for you. And no one's going to answer them as good as you, but do bring in some close friends at the end to take a look at what your results are and think, am I in the right direction? Am I close? What are we going to talk about next time we get together? You had other ideas too for topics.
Yeah. Oh, what is the next one that I want to talk about? I'm getting a ton of stuff off of LinkedIn. I'm telling you what, if you're not on LinkedIn, you need to get on LinkedIn. So there's a couple of topics that I think we're going to try to touch base on. One of which is followership. Are you familiar with followership?
I saw you do a reel on it, like a short form video a few weeks ago. But before that, I had never heard the term followership. So I want you to explain it to me and help me understand what it is and if I should be doing it or not.
A hint. It has nothing to do with how many people follow you on social media.
Okay. All right.
Which is good, because I don't have very many that follow me on social media.
Take a listen to PTA Plus. If this framework hit home for you, send this episode to a colleague who maybe needs to hear it. And don't forget to follow Katie and her podcast, PTA Plus. We've got more of these crossover episodes coming your way. Katie, thanks so much for stopping by.